Ah. So I changed the whole talk up yesterday. I had a whole nother talk, but the Wizard of Oz was calling me once again. And I couldn't believe when I looked up the last time I did this series. I did the series 5 years ago. So, wow. That's all I can say. Wow. But it was so much fun that we got to do it again. 4 talks, 1 movie. It's all good. So it's a 4-point series of talks. And we are exploring the metaphysical teachings found in this classical movie, because this movie is filled with metaphysical meaning. It is awesome. And because there are so many spiritual lessons provided by the ruby red slippers, I'm going to wear them every single week this month. In fact, there are 4 spiritual lessons we're going to discuss this morning, and we're going to jump right in right now. So first, the lesson of the slippers. When Dorothy's house came crashing down in Munchkin Land, I'm sure most of you have seen the movie. If not, we're showing it December 3rd. And lands on and kills the Wicked Witch of the East, the Munchkins are thrilled that this has happened, and even more thrilled when they learned that Dorothy wasn't a witch. Because remember, they were running around going, "Oh, she's a witch, she's a witch." Well, they were thrilled to learn that she was not a witch. But their joy quickly cut out when the deceased's witch sister, the even more wicked witch of the West, shows up and threatens to drop a house on Dorothy. Glinda, remember? I had a beautiful wand that one of my grandsons broke, but I'll have to get another one so I can have my wand. Glinda, the good witch of the North, who had previously arrived in the coolest vehicle ever. Remember? The pink bubble. Diverts the attention by pointing out the ruby slippers. When the Wicked Witch of the West tries to take the slippers off, what happens? Anybody remember? They disappear. And all we see are these striped socks that the deceased witch that is under the house. And then when do the slippers appear again?
On Dorothy.
Yes, they appear again on Dorothy's feet. And Glinda quickly points out where they are and and says to the Wicked Witch of the West, and there they'll stay, because she's all pink and beautiful. Anyway, the Wicked Witch, of course, is irate and says, "I'm the only one who knows how to use them, and they're of no use to you." All right? Can't wait to see the movie again. "Keep tight inside them," says, no, wrong witch. "Keep tight inside them," says Glinda. "Their magic must be very powerful, or she wouldn't want them so badly." When Glinda said this to Dorothy, metaphysically, she is actually telling her never to forget the idea that she has within her a divine spark. She has a spark of divinity that is alive within her. And it's the spark to express her greatness, as we all have. All the while, Dorothy stands dumbfounded over the entire scene, not even beginning to comprehend what is going on, and oblivious to the power which she is now standing upon. She is in this place of power with these shoes and these munchkins, and she's oblivious to all of it. She doesn't even know where she is right now. And it sounds like us sometimes when we stand in life oblivious to everything that's going on around us and sucked up by the emotion of the events going on around us without a clue to the power in which we stand. Because we are powerful manifestors. I will say that every week because it really is the truth. We get to co-create our lives, but no one told us that. So we need to remember it each and every week. So that brings us to the great spiritual lesson number 1. We are filled with that divine spark, that infinite source, that energy of divinity that is alive within us. And we are immersed in and stand in the power of good, the power of good, a power of greatness. We are often like fish swimming in the ocean and not comprehending what water is. Isn't that just like us in life? Here we are. We're in this substance of infinite potential, and we don't even know it. We don't even know that this what looks like empty space is all good, it's all God. And it's for us to create, to mold it into what we want to experience. And that is the truth. That is the truth. All of the great minds have known that. We each have this divine essence, this spark within us. We are born with it, and no one can take it away from us. Dorothy's ruby slippers, made of rare, mine aren't, but rare and precious gemstones, are a radiant symbol of the inner spark, of the infinite potentiality of greatness that resides in each and every one of us. And I want to say that again because it is the crux of today. The slippers are a radiant symbol. They're a symbol. Even down to the material that they are made of our divine spark, those gemstones of infinite power within each and every one of us. You are, we are, each provided with this infinite potential for greatness. And you have, we have, the free will to discover for ourselves this infinite spark within us. And I'm calling it a spark. It's our everything. It's what we come in with, it's what we leave with. It is our continuum. It is our power within us, our God power. And to activate and express that greatness or that free will, we have the free will to extinguish it. So we have both. We can express our greatness or we can extinguish it with our thoughts and our actions and our words. But we can't extinguish it completely because it will survive all things, because it is the divine expressing in and through and as us. So we might cover it over and forget about it or not even be aware of it, but it is always present. And when we connect with it, all things are possible. When we say infinite potentiality, that's exactly what we are talking about. You are, we are, each one of us endowed with that power for greatness. So I remember a couple of years ago, a group of us attended a Michael Beckwith lecture that he was giving at an expo. And he's a very well-known New Thought minister, if you don't know who he is. Most people do in our community. And he said what he talked about was really so interesting, because he talked about there is a divine presence that is not absent of good. And that good expressed through each and every one of us is the God spark, the essence of the radiant, the divine, the sparkly selves. We are sparkly selves, just like Dorothy's shoes were sparkly. And they wait, we wait to have it activated. And we can only do that through our own consciousness. We can only activate our divinity through our decision that we are indeed capable of great accomplishments, great way of living life, great way of expressing who and what we are. Yes. We absolutely do have that, each and every one of us, but it must be activated by our consciousness, our conscious choice, which is the function of our awareness. If we are not aware, life goes on and we live in it. And we live by the outside in. I'm inviting us to live by the inside out. So much better. So much better. We cannot choose consciously unless we are aware that we have something to be conscious of, that there is a power within us. And Ernest Holmes, founder of Science of Mind, Religious Science, says this in Science of Mind book. While we do not have the ability to destroy the divine idea of ourselves, we do have the ability to deface it, to make it appear discordant. So, that's the big spiritual lesson for number one. And then we move in what's next. What's next? Glinda soon disappears in her pink bubble. It's not a great way to travel through life. Leaving Dorothy on her own to figure things out. Don't you just love Glinda? She's just so cool. Okay, so that leads us into spiritual lesson number two. And Holmes said it this way. In studying the order of our evolution, it seems certain that it was necessary from the time we were brought to a point of self-choice that we be let alone to discover our true nature. We are endowed, he wrote, with the attributes of self-choice and free will. So we must be allowed to make this great discovery for ourselves. Nobody can teach it to you. So you learn how to be empowered, because these spiritual teachings here every Sunday and in our classes are about empowering each and every person, about like wake up and see the beauty that you can create. But don't try to teach it to people that are not aware or want to be aware of it. That is their choice. And we do not infringe upon anyone's choice, but we get to enjoy the empowerment of our lives. And he wrote this also, Holmes. The law has evolved to a point of individuality and must now let us alone to discover the secrets of life for ourselves. Let us alone, but not left us alone. Big thing. The divine did not leave us alone. The divine is always with us, in us. We are the divine. That's the truth of our nature, of who we are as spiritual beings, because that's what we really are, spiritual beings having this human experience. So, but it doesn't leave us. A higher intelligence and a power and an infinite law is always standing ready and waiting to respond to us. This substance, this unformed substance that Ernest Holmes describes as spiritual law, is always waiting to give back what is put into it. It is neutral, and it is always intelligent because it is responsive as to what it gives back to us. Foundations 101, great stuff. So Foundations is a class, by the way, for those who... So it lets us alone, but it doesn't leave us alone. This is so important to remember, that we are never alone. We are never truly alone. So when we feel that loneliness, we have not connected with that divine essence, that spark within us. Because when we turn within and we find that, that's where the real love is. That's where the divine love is, that self-love. But first we got to get to a point of self-like. We have to like who we are. A higher intelligence and a higher power and an infinite law stand ready. They stand ready and waiting to respond to us. And you know, we create, if we don't create consciously, we create through default. We are always creating. Just remember that. Like, just because you're not thinking about it doesn't mean you're not creating. Because every thought is creative. Every single thought we have, whether it is good for us or not good for us, is creative. Every thought. So we are not left alone, because we cannot be separated from this spark, this oneness, this unity, and nor from this power of good, a power of greatness in which we are immersed and in which we stand. And going back to the spiritual lesson number one, that goes back to that divine spark is within us. So we get to use it. Now let's look at the Wicked Witch of the West for a moment. She has certainly doused, defaced her inner spark. She has one. You can't see it. long before Dorothy arrived in Oz. She wants the slippers so she can rekindle her own inner spark, and so that her power will be the greatest in Oz. That's what she wants, those slippers. She's the outer things she is consumed by. When we have lost our touch with truth, our dreams, our greatness, when we have forgotten about them, when we have fallen asleep from them, when we have not kept our ruby slippers tight on our feet, I might even sleep with mine. They're not sparkly, but they're red suede, and they're very cool. Very cool. So we go other ways to make us feel complete, and they might not be the best ways for us. Remember, our highest and best good. One of them is certainly power. Not spiritual power, but that egoic power. And that is used to manipulate and control others. That is not the power we talk about when we talk about the omnipotent power of the divine. We're not talking about that human power. That's small, petty. We're not talking about that. But when the Wicked Witch of the West reaches for those ruby slippers, sparks fly from the shoes, giving that green-skinned witch, remember her? Quite a shock. "Fool that I am," she roared. "I should have remembered. Those slippers will never come off as long as you're alive, my pretty." I think she does that laugh afterwards. So she's got to kill Dorothy in order to get those slippers. So spiritual lesson number 3 then. There may be people who want to extinguish your spark, your light. There may be people that want to take you down that road of misery with them, or keep you from expressing your greatness. Teachers, politicians, bosses, partners, friends, people. Or the committee that resides in your head. How about them? Oh, probably our greatest self-destruction is that committee that's in our head that tells us all the reasons why we are not great. But they can never get those ruby slippers off your feet unless you let them. Remember that, unless you let them. Nobody can touch your greatness, your spark, your divinity. Nobody can touch it. How many times have you let someone else or yourself talk you out of your dream? Talk you out of what you really feel called to do in life. A way that ignites that inner spark. And that was your calling to express it. It has taken me a whole life to get to this point right here, right now, where I won't let anyone else take my power. I've given my power away for most of my life. I've decided it's my power, I'm keeping it, and no one's touching it. And I'm keeping my ruby slippers on to remind me of that. And even if they're not on my feet, they'll be in my consciousness, they'll be in my mind because of what they represent. That divine inner spark that each and every one of us has. We don't know it sometimes. We forget it, or we let people tell us that doesn't exist. Well, it does. That which calls us to express ourselves in this beautiful community is what we want to flow with. We want to remind, this is a community that won't let you forget. That's the beauty of the people here. We know your greatness, and we remind each other when we get weak or we're in that dark place. We remind each other, no, here's the spiritual truth of that for you. That's what community should be about, to support and raise each other, to be there for each other. And so, I just went completely off topic. I encourage each and every one, not really off topic, it's on topic. So I encourage each one of us, if you're not doing it now, to ignite that radiant self within us and to become aware that we are so much more than these physical bodies. We are so much more than these physical bodies. The real power of who we are lies within us, And it's the nature of the divine. When we choose to align with it, all is possible. When we have that faith that it actually exists and we are one with it, all is possible. And so you allow the radiance of your sparkly self to shine through. And finally, we move on to spiritual lesson number 4. After Dorothy throws that bucket of water at the wicked witch, accidentally liquidating her, everybody forgets about those ruby slippers until the wizard, remember the wizard? Takes off in his hot air balloon. I'm skipping to the end because we got 3 more talks on this. He takes off on his hot air balloon, leaving Dorothy wondering, how do I get out of here? How do I get back to Kansas, right? And again, just at the right time, Glinda floats in. We should have music going when she floats in. She floats in and says to her, you've always had the power all along to go back to Kansas. Always had the power. We forget. We've always had the power within us. It is always present, and no one, not even us, can extinguish it. And so, why didn't you tell her before, demands the Scarecrow, failing to use his divine intelligence at that moment. Because she wouldn't have believed me, explains Glinda. And Glinda knew one of the biggest spiritual lessons of all, one that Buddha taught, one that Jesus taught, one that all spiritual paths on this philosophical way of thinking have taught. And it is the big spiritual lesson for this morning. It is done unto you as you believe. Finer words could not have been spoken. More powerful words could not have been spoken. It is done unto you as you believe. What are you believing about yourself? How are you limiting yourself? How are you expanding yourself? Your greatness, you're powerful. Because your beliefs activate the universal law that acts upon them and brings the effects into your life. You are the cause. You are the cause. Everything in your life is an effect. And truly, effects have no power over us because we can always change the cause. We can always think a new thought. If you believe the ruby slippers will take you home, they will. They really will. If you don't believe it, they won't. It's that simple. We were born with choice, always with choice. Do you believe you have a divine spark within you? How deep is that belief? Truly, for something to contemplate during the week. And how deep is that belief? That true insight is an event that takes place in your consciousness, your awareness. What we are aware of, what we truly believe is what we will experience in life. It's quite simple. It truly is quite simple, but we have made it extremely difficult. So, I'm going to review these are the 4 spiritual lessons. The first one, you are filled with a divine spark and standing in the power of good. You are standing in the power of good, a power for greatness. Number 2, we are left alone. Not left alone, we are let alone to make choices. We make our own decisions. We discover who we are and what we want to do in life. Whether we follow that or not is our choice, period. Lesson number 3. There may be people, including the ones inside your head, who want to extinguish your spark and who will tell you it can't be done. You're out of your mind. You're crazy. I'm out of my mind. I'm out of my human mind. I want to be out of my human mind. I want to be in my divine mind where limitless possibilities and potential exist. That's where I want to be. And But they tell you that you can never do this, and we believe it, and we extinguish our dreams. So it's back to remembering who we are. And number 4, it is done unto you as you believe. Very powerful. If you don't have any other affirmations, that's one to repeat and to ponder. Ernest Holmes wrote this: "Now is high time to awake out of sleep. The belief in a life apart from God is a dream from which we must awake if we are to taste the waters of reality," with the capital R, "which flow from the source of life." And I'm going to read this. This is so nice. It's so good. "This awakening is a process of evolution, a little here and a little there, until the whole eye is opened and we see that life is neither separate from God nor different from good. Life is God, and good is the only power there is or can be. God sees and knows only perfection and completion, happiness and satisfaction. When we shall think of ourselves as God knows us, then complete salvation will come to us. Complete salvation from erroneous thinking. Complete salvation from that which keeps us from living and expressing the truth of our being, of stepping outside of this make-believe box that people keep talking about. I don't even know what the box is. I've never really known what it was. But to step out in life, to walk on that golden brick road, and to take step after step, knowing you are moving in the direction that serves your highest good. And how do you know it? You know it by the way you feel, because that feeling is your intuitive self, your God self. Okay, that's the salvation part. So hold on tight, my friends, to the truth of who you are, and think of yourself as God knows you, as the divine knows you. You are a divine spark in the infinite. And see and really believe, if you can't see it, believe that you are a great being, that you have been created out of this God stuff, this God essence. And move together, because together we hold tight to those ruby slippers, and we don't let anything get in our way. We know our greatness. Know it, believe it, even if you can't see it. It's there. And so